Mel.
Yes.
Oh, hey, Mel. How the heck are
Hello.
you?
We actually do.
You know what? It is. We are here this time. We weren't here before. We recorded about 30 to 40 minutes and then realized it stopped recording after I said, Mel, are you there? And so it had that, but it didn't have anything else. And that is because it is episode 32 of video games.
Because
Video games.
that's the episode we have now. Because we
That's
missed a little bit.
Yeah, we missed a couple of weeks. So since we last recorded, there was a Nintendo Direct. There was all sorts of other stuff were announced. Starfield was delayed, but what did happen was not only did Nintendo announce and at the same day release Game Boy and Game Boy Advance onto the NSO, they I should say Game Boy on the NSO, Game Boy on the NSO Plus expansion pack, but they also went ahead and released um yeah, they brought Metroid Fusion out. Plus, they also gave us a couple other games that are coming in the future, including Golden Sun, and I believe the other one was one of the Fire Emblems, correct?
Yeah, I remember seeing that splash through in the direct set as well. Because we got like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, I
Minish
saw you
Cap.
playing that on stream, Minish Cap. A lot of
Yeah.
people have been playing Minish Cap lately. So we got some really nice picks from like the first set of from games, and then we just got Metroid Fusion not too long ago. And that's also a really excellent game right there.
Yeah.
And we kind of got like a lot of Metroid lately.
We
So we
have,
got
yeah.
like
Yeah, because they also,
because
Metroid,
they also shadow drop Metroid Prime. It's
right.
like digital only for like a week or two.
There was a rumor
$40.
they were going to shadow drop Advance Wars.
That's what you were hoping for. I remember you going into this direct. You're like, okay, we're gonna be playing Advance Wars this Thursday, Mel.
Get ready. And I was like,
Get ready.
I got to get my voucher in time. And then they were like, no, you're not going to play it. You'll play it in April when we give it to you, if we don't delay it again. And instead, you can play Metroid Prime. And I was like, oh, okay. And $40. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they also did a physical release, but it wasn't the same day. So I know some people are still having troubles like getting a physical copy because some people just like prefer that method better. But Nintendo did say they're trying to push more of those out, so you
Yeah.
don't have to pay like the scalper prices for that. So let's
Yeah,
see how
it's
it goes.
nice.
And me and you, we like really checking that eShop chart.
Oh, yeah.
And Metroid Prime was really doing well because like it was even beating Kirby when the remake of Kirby came out. Like Kirby barely just overtook it, and I think it just overtook Kirby again. So
Yeah.
a lot of people
Now,
are really into this Metroid Prime. Who
right.
who knew?
Yeah. Who would have thunk? You know? We'll see how it sells. And then we'll see what this does for Nintendo deciding to push Metroid Prime. If they do end up pushing it more or less, we'll see what happens. Um, what was I going to say? Um, Mel, so my question to you, I was like, Mel, let's talk about what Game Boy Advance games we want to see come to NSO. And I was like, okay, well, so in order to do that, first we need to do, first things first. You know how we are. Um, did you eat anything good since we last spoke?
Mm.
I'm gonna guess you're gonna say no because we've already had this conversation.
Yeah, we didn't. Instead, I opt for saying what I had. That was the most least appetizing thing I had in those 3 weeks,
Oh yeah,
which
that
was last
spaghetti.
night. I had some really bad spaghetti. Like nothing about it was good. The noodles were not good. The sauce not good. The meatballs I only got two, and they were like the size of like two golf balls infused together.
With no
It
flavor,
was
you
covered.
said?
There was no flavor in the inside. Even on the outside with the sauce, there was no flavor. Like I was like dunking that thing trying to get something. It was still dry. it didn't even feel like meat when you chewed on it. So I was
Mm.
like, this is not the best thing I had. This is not even decent, you know. So I
Yeah.
was very disappointed, and now while we were doing, the pre-show setup kind of thing, I went ahead and ordered some really good pork chops. So I'm just gonna eat that like at 2, in the afternoon. I don't really care. I was just so disappointed by what I had last night that I'm making sure I'm having something good now. So,
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
maybe next week I can talk about the pork chops, but not this week.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's yeah, for me it's probably just the same stuff that I've usually eat. Uh so there's a grocery store near us. They have, adult chicken nuggets for boneless wings. And I got
Yeah.
those and I got some of them and I was eating those. And then we got some homemade Vanessa made some homemade buffalo chicken and cheesesteak egg rolls. Those are good. Always good.
Oh, those are good.
Hmm. And yeah, so those were good. Those were delicious, delectable. This morning I made myself an omelet with some shredded cheese on top,
Oh my god, fancy you are.
and Vanessa got I made her an omelet with some mushrooms baked in. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm thinking of all the stuff. Oh, you know what? I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't mention I tried the Peeps Pepsi. Um,
Oh yeah. And you didn't die, so I'm proud of you.
it's a dumpster fire. It is. It is. So okay. So it tastes better with ice than without ice. I don't know what
Is
it
that
is.
because you're freezing your tongue so you don't have to taste more of it? Is that what it is?
No, I guess just like the colder it is, the better it tastes. So like if you drink it, like see they're in these like small little cans. So if you drink it while it's really cold, it tastes good, but then the warmer it gets, the worse it gets.
Mm. I mean, it's not very good to start with, so
Yeah.
that's not
So
good.
yeah. Wait, are you talking about Peeps or Peeps Pepsi?
Peeps Pepsi.
Where
I
do you
can
stand on
understand why
Peeps?
some people. Okay, so back in the day,
Oh dear.
Peeps were my jam. I loved those things. I could eat like packets of those things easily.
Hmm.
Now it's to the point where it's like I put like one in my mouth and I just want to die. Because like I had so many peeps. I'm just peep overload. Like I can't process any more peeps. I can't. Can't do
Well,
it.
you know their catchphrase, "Peep it to me." You know.
Peep it. And I remember somebody because you've been streaming, a little bit of amount of time since we stopped,
Yeah.
and I remember somebody in your chat was like they should make a chicken flavored peep, and I was like they should make it, yeah, they should
Yeah.
do that, but they should make it fried chicken, so like it has like the skin of the fried chicken on the peep. I would try that just for hilarity's sake
Uh,
if they actually did that, like a fried chicken peep.
that sounds terrible, but I would definitely try it too. It does not sound good, but I would try it. Um, but yeah, so for me, it was probably that, and then just the exciting fact that I got to try that. Finally got to try the Dr. Pepper strawberries and cream. That was pretty
Ooh.
good, but um, so I might, drink like 2 cans of Mountain Dew in a day, right? But
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah.
oh my gosh, what?
That's a lot of Mountain Dew because, like, if you actually like
Do the do.
look in the back, yeah, I know. But, I mean, I used to do that back in the day too, like having like 2 sodas a day. But,
Yeah.
like now, it's like, oh, like I can't do it.
No, I'm saying I could, but when it comes to the Dr. Pepper strawberries and cream, it almost tastes like a
Mhm.
dessert, where it's like
Oh,
you're drinking it and then you're like, okay, this is what I'll have for dessert. I could see it being good mixed in with some like vanilla ice cream, like use that as the
you
base for the
making like a
root beer float.
float?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah. And
like a
now I
Dr.
actually want to
Pepper
try
float.
this
Yeah,
because I
it's
was just thinking about just the drink itself, and I was like, this doesn't sound like it's suitable for me because it sounds like one of those things where it's too sweet by itself. I need something
it's
to
quite sweet.
counterbalance
Yeah.
it.
Put some
Not
fried
that
chicken
ice
in
cream
there.
would,
Put some fried chicken
put
skin.
chicken. Just peel it off. They can have
Yeah.
their crossover promotion, you know.
Put your peep in there. Um, different companies, but still. But I still like your idea. They didn't have it. I looked, I Googled it, and they never came out with it, but it would be nice if they had um, Pepsi flavored peeps.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd
I
be
don't
down.
see why they wouldn't do that. They already have the drink like this. I mean, that's the next step, huh? That's
Mental health is important. It's important to me, it's important to Mel, it's important to quite a few people. And if you want to go ahead and help take care of your mental health and maybe see a therapist, well, head over to www.vhardcounseling.com. If you're in Pennsylvania, you can go ahead and book an appointment, request an appointment, set one up with Vanessa Hari. It is VHARICOUNSELING. She will be accepting insurance soon and would love to see you. So go ahead and check out www.vhardcounseling.com. But yeah, we took a break for a second. We're back, but I really do think peep flavored Pepsis would be good. Or no, Pepsi flavored peeps. I think,
there you go.
the candy that's like the cola. It's like, oh, this is a cola, and it's kind of like a gummy that looks
Oh
like a
yeah.
bottle of soda. I mean, those taste pretty good. So if you could get a peep out here tasting like that, I don't know how peep does with other flavors. I tried a watermelon peep once, and that was pretty good. Um, so I mean, if you can do watermelon, you if you can do a watermelon, you can do a Pepsi. Everyone says that's what they say in the flavor business.
Mm.
Um, and by they, I mean I just made it
So
up.
you're part of the flavor business.
I am
So
now. Yeah,
you're talking to Mr. Guy Fieri. You know,
yeah.
that's
We're
your
hanging
guy.
out in Flavor Town, talking about our favorite Game Boy Advance games. But yeah, his are all cooking games. Um, I'm
Of
trying to
course.
think of what cooking games do they have on the Game Boy Advance. I don't know. Um,
That's actually it's like Cooking Mama. That was the DS series. You know, that wasn't Game Boy Advance. That's the first thing I want to say. But like, that's
oh,
it.
there is a game called Doki Doki Cooking Series for the GBA.
Okay, so apparently that's might be his favorite game. You know, I was going on the other thought side of the pattern of instead of cooking, eating a lot of things. Like maybe some of the Kirby games would might be his favorite in that
Oh yeah,
aspect.
I could see that. Yeah. And do you cook in River City King? Or no, not River City.
Mm,
You know what I'm
mm.
talking about though.
Yeah, it's just I didn't really play those, so it's like
Oh, they're
that's
behind.
really like
Hmm.
I'm
That's
gonna go with a no. I'm
survival
gonna go
kids.
guess.
There we go. You eat in survival kids. You fish and then um you're
I guess
out
he
here
technically
trying to
cooked the fish
survive. Yeah.
though. Yeah, so maybe you're just cooking fish if you
Um
want to go.
but yeah, so we were talking and I was like, let's try and think of some. Did you do now? What I had came to you with the idea. I was like, let's see. So okay, let me start with they launched with 6 games. They launched with WarioWare, Super Mario
Okay.
Brothers. Um, let's see, Super.
Oh, Game Boy Advance. My bad. My bad.
What'd you say?
My bad. I was thinking about the Game Boy Advance games that came to the NSO, not like actual like Game Boy Advance launch lineup
Oh
type
yeah,
thing.
no, yeah. This is the games. Yeah, the launch lineup was really good, but yeah. So we talked about Uncrustables and on the last episode, and we gave our Nintendo Direct predictions. But then also Uncrustable, I got one in my pocket. But um,
Of course.
but yeah. So the NSO games, they came out with launched with WarioWare, Super Mario Advance 4, which is just Super Mario Brothers 3. They got the eShop or e-reader um, levels on there.
Levels. Yeah.
Mario Kart
Those are
Super
actually really fun.
Circuit, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Legend of
There we
Zelda
go.
Minish Cap,
There
and
we go.
Cura. What is it? Q Curin, something like that. We'll go with.
That's how I would pronounce it. If you saw it, there's a good chance you haven't played it. I'm just gonna be
Yeah,
honest.
it's you're a stick and you're kind of like moving the stick back and forth to make it through these puzzles and areas. So those
Yeah,
were the six they came up with, and then obviously they had like Fusion,
the
um,
show like Golden Sun.
Golden Sun, um, yeah, they had that, and then let me see here. Um, we also have I'm trying to see Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Fire Emblem: The Blazing Blade, and F-Zero Maximum Velocity. Those are the games that are coming later, along and Golden Sun. So far of those games, Metroid Fusion has come out, um, and then in terms of games coming to the NSO Game Boy, they still got Pokemon trading card game coming, Kirby Tilt
Mm-hmm.
and Tumble, and then they got Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. So they got
There
some
we go.
bangers coming out. But what
Yeah.
I asked you, I don't know what you did, but what I asked for was some Game Boy Advance games you want to see come to NSO. So I don't know if you said if you found any Game Boy games too, that those will work as well. Um,
Yeah, because I kind of did a I didn't okay I didn't do like I didn't do Game Boy Advance. I didn't do Game Boy and then separate Game Boy Color. I kind of just combined those two. But I do have like two sets of lists here because
oh,
I figured you would ask me that. You know,
oh
it's just
well,
like oh randomly since these are technically different because you know
that doesn't sound
I'm
like me at all.
I'm a big stickler for this handheld stuff because a lot of people will just group them up together, and it kills me in the inside. Like, because you don't group up any you don't group up Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. Those are two separate systems. You don't do that. But a
Right,
lot of people are like, oh DS, they're including like 3DS games. I'm like, no, that's a totally different thing. And this happens a lot with the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy because the Game Boy was like a thing for like a long time. We didn't really like replace it, and then we kind of had like the half step replacement of like the Game Boy Color because sometimes Nintendo separates it and then sometimes they combine it as like one
the
system.
Game Boy
But
family or the DS family. Yeah,
yeah, see, I really hate that because no, like you can't just put that game into like that system. It doesn't work. It's a totally different thing. So I made a list with that in mind because I would not want to really put them together like that because they're different things. So
right.
okay, I have some. So what are we starting off with?
You know what? Let's do a little Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance. Do you
Okay,
want to just read off some that you want, or do you want to go back and forth? You tell me.
we can go back and forth to
All
save
right.
some breath for each of us because we probably have little comments to say about each
Yeah.
one.
I mean, you. Yeah. All right. So, go. You know what? You go ahead and go first, and then I will go.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with an easy one. I've been saying this for a long time, but Pokemon Pinball. I want a new Pokemon Pinball. Since they're not giving me a new Pokemon Pinball, we can do Pokemon Pinball Advance. You know, I don't really have a lot of pinballs on my system. There's plenty you can actually get, but there's nothing that really appeals to me in that aspect. Like I have like Demon's Chill. That's probably like the best pinball game I have, and not counting like Yoko's Island Express. But that's
Okay. Right.
not pinball game. That's like a pinball adventure game, which is really cool. You have Creature in the Wall, kind of the same aspect of that. It's not just pinball, but Pokemon Pinball Advance. That's my first one because you get to capture, Pokemon in the game. And it's pinball. It's cool.
It
'Cause
is.
I don't understand how we haven't had a new one, especially in this free to play market we have now. Because with Pokemon Trozy, like the little puzzle game, the little matching puzzle thing, they pretty much moved that only to the free to play stuff, like Pokemon Cafe. It's kind of like not exactly the same, but it's in that same family of things. So I just assumed they would do that for pinball, but they haven't, and it's like, where was pinball? And I know we had the Pokemon Direct too. We missed that while we were out, and a lot of people were expecting, those Pokemon games to drop for Pokemon Day.
Oh yeah,
And I'm over here. I'm like Pokemon pinball, baby. But we got Pokemon Sleep and
yeah.
news of the DLC. Yeah.
Slept
So
through
and
the
like that.
whole last Pokemon presents basically. Um, but yeah, because they had that, they had Pokemon Sleep, then they had the Pokemon DLC, which they basically just showed just
Showed
some
pictures for
concept
like
art, a couple of Pokemon that are going to be coming to each version. Um,
uh,
and yeah, that's about it, right?
well, they had that the trading card set, that like high
Oh yeah,
quality. It's like if you're actually like into like doing tournaments and stuff like that. But I mean that was pretty much the Pokemon Direct. I know some people were expecting like a new mystery dungeon game or like a remake of a mystery dungeon game because we did see like a little trademark thing from like Spikesoft, and Spikesoft like worked on like some of those. So a lot of
huh.
disappointment for Pokemon Day. We just missed that too. I totally forgot about that until I was talking about pinball because I was like, that's what I wanted that day was just DLC and pinball.
Yeah,
So we can
exactly.
go with your choice now. You know.
So my choice is a launch title. So there was a launch title that came out day and date with the system. It did not come out here, or no, it came out here at launch. It came out in Japan in launch, and then it came out in Europe at launch. And it is none other than Fire Pro Wrestling. Now, the
Oh,
Switch is
that's actually a good one.
the
Actually, a
Switch
good one.
does not. Thank you. The Switch really is missing out with the number of wrestling games they have, where they're basically just there's like a couple of like $5 or $10. I think they even have like $15 wrestling games, like downloadable games, and none of them are very good. WWE 2K18 came out, that is not very good. Um, it came out and it was just not something I want. I want Fire Pro Wrestling. Love that game. I played it for maybe like 30 hours at the launch of the Game Boy Advance. Because, did we ever talk? Did you play the Game Boy Advance when it first came out? Or when it was out?
Yeah, but see that was like during the time frame where I was like reliant on like yard sales
Uh,
types of things. So like I wasn't able to get like a lot of things like day one. It was like from the end of the GameCube on was like when I was like really becoming that person because like I was like established enough to do that. So I have
okay.
some random games on my GBA, and the GBA actually allowed me to play a lot of the Super Nintendo games because I wasn't able to get one. So I really like the GBA because of that too.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, my brother went and got the Game Boy Advance at launch, and then
Mhm.
he um met up with I was with my parents. I went with my parents and my brother was like, "You wait here." We went to like Lowe's and they're just looking around at the furniture thing. And my brother, it was like me and my buddy Pete. We it was and my brother was went to the store, came back, and cuz I think he had his own car, he drove somewhere, went to the mall, went to EB Games at the time or Funko Land, one of the two, and he bought it with because he had just started working around then,
Mhm.
and so he bought it, and I was like, "Oh, you got the Game Boy Advance?" And he was like, trust me, it's amazing. Because he had like Circle of the Moon, blah blah blah. He had like a lot of games
Oh
at
man.
launch, and I was like, man, I gotta check this out. So we were playing it, and I was like, yeah, this is fantastic. So I think what we did was we went, and this is how much of a handheld gamer I was. I think we had the PS1 and the N64, and we were constantly playing WWF No Mercy, and or whatever, whichever wrestling game was out at the time. We were playing it on the N64, and we were like, you know what? We don't need this anymore. We don't need the PS1. We got the N64. We're playing this. And so what we would do is, as kids, whenever we wanted to play a game on the other system, we would just trade everything in. All our system, our games,
Oh
everything.
man.
So my brother had a Game Boy Advance. He said they had about 10 more at the GameStop at the EB Games. He's like, they got
Yeah.
more there. If we go home, because he only had all he got was Circle of the Moon, right? And oh no, he got
Yeah.
Circle of the Moon and F-Zero. He was like, these are going to be great. And so he played them, and the problem was he tried to show it to me outside in the sun, and it was the Game Boy Advance. I couldn't see
Oh
anything.
no.
I was like, we gotta go. I found like a dark corner in Lowe's and was playing it. I was like, this is incredible. And so he wanted more games for it, and I wanted a Game Boy Advance. So he
Yeah.
was like, he was trying to think of ways to get it, and the only way he could think of was if we sold our NES or our PS1 and all of our games. And so that's what we did. We sold the PS1 and all of our games, and we got the Game Boy Advance. Well, he already had one, and he had Circle of the
Yeah.
Moon, and he had Circle of the Moon, and he had F-Zero. And so what we did, we had so many games and the system, we had so much stuff that we traded in that I got a Game Boy Advance, we got Fire Pro Wrestling, we got F-Zero, we got or not F-Zero, I think Mario Kart was one of the launch titles. Mario Kart
Okay.
Super Circuit. Um, and we got Choo Choo Rocket. Um,
Um, you already jumping the gun here. That's one of
I
mine. That's one of mine.
Yeah, okay, so we did not get Super Circuit. We pre-ordered 2 copies of Super Circuit because it came out in August, and the system came out June. So we did end up getting Mario Kart later, but what we got was Super Mario Advance Wars or Super Mario Advance, and then we got the um, another system. We got the two copies. I got another copy of F-Zero, so we played multiplayer, um, and it was a lot of fun. Um, so that yeah, so we basically I'm trying to think. So yeah, there were oh, that's right. That's what we did. We also got so we ended up almost getting a bunch of the games. We were going to try and get as many as we could just so we could check them out. And what we ended up doing was getting Mario Advance, F-Zero, Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Okay, great game.
Oh.
Great game. A Dodgeball Advance, Fire Pro
Oh.
Wrestling, um,
I've been playing that.
Choo Choo Rocket, and then we each got Rayman. And the games, I forgot the games. Some games were $29.99, some were $39.99. But the
Yeah.
Nintendo games were $29.99, and then some of the other ones were $39. They also had Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2. We did not get that at launch. Or
Uh,
Pitfall. I think we might have got this game called Iridian 3D, which was like a 3D shooter just because we were like, wow, look at that. The Game Boy does 3D. We did the same thing when Tekken came to the Game Boy. But yeah,
yeah, because that's the whole point of those versions. It's like, hey, we know this isn't the best version, but this is gonna
it'll
like make
do, right?
people's minds blow.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, so then yeah, so all that to say Fire Emblem. or Fire Pro Wrestling is my
Yeah.
um
It's your first choice.
is my first choice.
Because I mean, I'm looking at the things I have down. I probably put down like close to 20. So, we could always come back and pick more as time goes
Yeah,
along. Because
you're
I'm looking at some of these and I'm like, I don't think they're gonna actually launch in this system. I have like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. I'm like, okay, yeah, I love that game. Great game. But like this is also a Square Enix game. You know what they're doing lately? They're remaking their stuff. So, you
yeah,
know. I know we have the rumor of Final Fantasy Tactics remake happening. But like, I
yeah.
mean, hey, if that does well, maybe they do the advanced games. If not, I can settle for it being on the NSO. Because this is like one of the few games actually uh, I'll actually like replay almost yearly. There might be like a year or two gap. I'll skip replaying it, but I
Tactics or
just really
Tactics
like it.
Advance?
Tactics Advance because again, it's only handheld. If I had Tactics on the handheld from like the get go, that would be like another one I would probably play like yearly. But Tactics Advance, I really like how the story was happening for this because when I first played it, I was like 11. So it was interesting to have like you like isekai into like the book world and like his life, the main
Isekai.
character's life is just yeah, you know he went to a different world.
Oh, I've heard that phrase maybe. Hey, I know that
Th-
phrase.
It's like it's like an anime phrase. That's basically there's like a whole genre where it's like that's the main setup. It's like, oh, person goes to a different world, they do different things. Usually
Mm.
it's like
Nino Cooney too, like the president of the United States.
yeah.
And saves the kingdom. Um, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of them lately do have like crazier setups, but like back in the day, it's like, they just transfer to a different world. Okay, like now you gotta go kill like the demon lord. That still happens, but like
Yeah,
the main character in this one just had absolute crap life. Everything in his life was going wrong. He moved to a new town. He was the new kid in school. Like he had to take care of like his brother and like
got into a snowball fight. That's how they teach you how to play with the
yeah,
snowball fight,
they teach
which I
snowball
thought was
fight
pretty
and
cool.
yeah, it's a cool setup. And like when you actually go into the world, like the first set of enemies you fight is like those bars, like those bullies that would actually bullying you, and then you just kind of like kill them. And I'm like, oh crap! Like I noticed this at 11. I was like, that's actually kind of messed up. And it plays with a lot of like if you actually pay attention to the plot, it plays with a lot of like different little things. It's like because like when you go to these other worlds, like the main person usually is like, "Hey, yeah, I want to escape here. Like I want to make my life better here. This is just a better place for me." But you have like the main characters like doing the exact opposite. Usually it's like, "I want to stay here." This guy is like, "No, I need to go back." And everybody's like, "Hey, your life is like crap back. Like why you want to go back?" So you have to convince all these people, and you see people that you know in life and how they're interacting in this world, and they're just terrible people as well. They're like that. They're getting worse and worse, and there's reasons for it. They're legit. I'm not saying they're not, but like I don't know. It just made me thought a lot as a kid because like I was like 11 playing this, and I was like, oh, this is a lot different than the plots I usually get. Usually it's just like bad guy bad, slay him,
Right,
that
yeah,
type of thing. And then
exactly.
it's tactics, and I'm very big in tactics, and this also taught me another important lesson in life, but it just relates to video games
Oh, what's that?
because I will always remember this because I screwed up my very first playthrough of this game. Um, you know, Nowadays we have multiple save files, right? Well, this
Oh
game did
dear.
too. This game did too. So like I progressed through the story at like one point where I wasn't really supposed to, but like I pulled off some little neat tricks where like I just surpassed enough to pass that chapter or that section. So I'm getting into in game. I didn't realize it was in game, so like I didn't do like a lot of the side quest stuff. I wasn't like really leveling up my guys correctly. You know, I wasn't as skilled as the tactics games as I am now. Like
You're
now I
right.
can do it like easily. But like this is like one of the first ones I was actually getting really into, and it was like a thing before like the final boss. It's like, hey, You want to save here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna save here. No, easy peasy." It wasn't like it's just saving on the actual map. It's like you move to this icon on the map, and it's like, "Hey, you want to save here?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna save here." So if
Oh,
you save there, it locks you there. You can't move on the map anymore. Like you can't go back and like train or like grind or like gain levels, like change your party, like like to really like manage them. It's like when you load up the game, you load up that save file. You're on that mountain. You have to go on that mountain to do the last fight. And I was like really under leveled for this fight.
and yeah,
So
because nowadays they'll tell you, they'll say, hey,
yeah, this is the last fight.
if you go forward, this is it. You can't go anywhere else. You can't go back.
Yeah, but see, they did kind of do that, but they didn't give me enough information because they actually did you want to save you. So that's like a kind of like a warning sign, like, hey, this is gonna be it. This is like the
Right,
final
yeah.
thing. Now they usually add that added line of text. It's like, hey, you can't go back, yada yada. But I didn't know that because first time playing it, and I didn't really have like that kind of thing happening in the other types of games I was playing. I saved there. I was not prepared, and I must have did that map like 15 times, man, before I finally beat it. And my whole squad, aside from me, like the main guy, and like my white mage, just one of them, were
Y-
completely dead. And like my last move, I was like out of like I was almost out of like not HP MP. I was almost out of
Okay, yeah.
MP. Like I was using up all the items I could possibly use. I had a perfect 50% chance of hitting. This is my last spell. She needs this last bit of hit to die. So it was like a coin flip kind of thing, and I got it, but like it taught me like, hey, make multiple save files. So now when I save in something, I think about that moment because I'm like, I don't want to get locked into this mountain. I don't want to be locked behind
Oh,
fight,
yeah. Right.
So now, like whenever I have a game and it's like only one save file, I freak out. I don't like that. Like I can't do this. Like you got to give me multiple ones. Like you can have like an auto save file and then like the manual file. I'm fine with that. But if you only give me one and it's only one, I ain't freaking out. Like I need to double check something to make sure I'm not saving myself into like a losing fight or like a losing battle. Just halting
Right, yeah.
progress. So now when I save, I have like 30 different save files if I'm allowed to. Like the Tales of series, I love that. They gave you like 200 slots. I use every single one of them. I will find a way.
So
So
you were
I'm
saying
I'm
advanced.
open.
That would be nice if it came, even because the second one is what? Is that the DS game?
Yes, that's a DS game. It plays a little differently. Most people prefer the first game. I do too as well, but I still really like the second game. But yeah, it's a DS game.
I'll tell you what. You know what I'd love to see? Um, there's a there's there's a game called Drill Dozer. I don't know if you ever heard of this.
Yeah, okay. I'm scratching that off
Scratch it
my
off the
list.
list. Scratch it off the list. This is what you get for going with Advance Wars first. Drill
That's not
Dozer.
advanced. That's Final Fantasy Tactics is
Exactly.
advanced.
That's what I meant. And
I know
so
you still that was mine.
so the um the game itself, Drill Dozer, oh, it was just so good. It had like a built-in rumble pack on the controller itself, and then if I remember, you're basically using the L and R for like moving around where you're drilling, and Drill Dozer itself, a lot of fun. Now this is a Game Freak game. This is one of those, Game Freaks out here making a game that we'll never see again unless it's on the iOS as a remake.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. I'm still upset with the pocket card jockey. There we go.
Yeah, Pocket Card Jockey, baby. But yeah,
Oh,
Drill Dozer, loved it. The fact that I think part of the reason why, the fact that it was Game Freak made me want to get it. It came out in 2006. I said 2016. No,
Yeah, that's
2006.
ooh.
It actually did. It came out January 7th, 2016 on in Europe, but I think it was because it came to like eShop, the virtual console. I don't think it ever came out,
Yeah.
but yeah, so this was a game where it was like you it's like an action platformer. And so what you're doing is you got this drill, you got the rumble. I think the rumble is honestly part of the reason I picked it up. There was a couple of games that had rumble, including including your Pokemon Pinball, correct?
Yeah, I think it did. I think that was one of the first ones actually,
And then
because they really want you to
yeah,
do like the table movement, I guess.
they continued that trend with like Metroid Pinball came, worked with the 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 DS Rumble Pack PAK.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
but yeah, so I really enjoyed Drill Dozer. I would love to see them do it because I tried to make a list that wasn't just a bunch of like um, licensed games. It's hard to like find a bunch of games that you want to come. It's not hard actually because there are so many games that I'd love to see come from the Game Boy. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. But yeah,
I mostly followed that same line of thought, but I do have a licensed game on here.
so do I.
I guess I can.
So we'll see
I
if
guess
it's
I
the
can jump
same
that
one.
in.
Oh, all right.
It might be. It might be. 'Cause since you stole one of mine,
Go
do you
ahead.
have the Hamtaro games on your list?
No, I do not.
Okay. I have the Hamtaro games on my list. That's what I decided to go with.
The
Because I
Hamtaro?
actually heard, yeah, the Game Boy Advance games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I actually heard these are actually pretty decent. And you know what? I'm like, okay, let's go Ham Heartbreak. Why not?
Ham Heartbreak. I mean, it's a good one. It's not bad. Um, I saw what was it? Kyle Bossman. He's been streaming. He streamed that last year, and so I ended up watching like 6 hours of Hamtaro. Did not expect to do that in 2022, but that's where we live. Yeah, and then I always thought it was just a Nintendo owned property, but it is not a Nintendo owned
No, no.
property at all.
It's
Yeah.
its it's its own little thing. Cause I remember watching the anime on Toonami, and I remember like Toonami was making like they had like a little commercial break, and they were making like a big deal. It's like, hey, we got a new anime coming on to the lineup. Can anyone guess what it is? And then it ends up being him. Like I thought it was a funny joke, so I ended up watching like a couple episodes. I might have saw like half the season. So it's just like a little bunch of hamsters. Why not?
Yeah.
And while making this list, I didn't want to make an entire list of things I played before. I wanted to have some new stuff, and I would be interested in trying if I had the ability to. So I heard these are actually pretty decent. You know what? Why not? Let's try Ham Toad. I know it's going to be a little harder to get since you have this license stuff you have to work with, but
Yeah.
you know, cross my fingers, shoot for the sky. Ham Toad, baby.
I mean, Nintendo published a lot of those games, if not all of them. They published a lot of them, at least in America. Um, the ones that did come to America, Nintendo published them and also kind of helped with some of the development. Um, but yeah, so the fact that they had that has me sort of not sort of hopeful necessarily, but it's hard to see like what games will end up coming out because they like I mean, for the Game Boy, one of the games that they had on the list was was geez Louise, what was the one game the Alone in the Dark was
Yeah,
the
that
Game
came out.
Boy Color
Wow.
game. Um but yeah, that was there. There is a game I want mainly for the multiplayer, which is something you don't normally think when you
Say for like
think
a
of a
GBA
Game
game.
Boy. Well, I mean, yeah, I had a lot of Game Boy Advance games that I played and I enjoyed, but in in terms of the um the this here, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and Four Swords. I would want
Okay.
the Game Boy
Do you
Advance
mostly want
version.
it for the forward swords or
Mostly
like
for the multiplayer Four Swords. Yeah, I mean we got the
okay.
Link to the Past. If they were to get Four Swords to work online, that'd be great. If not, I don't want it because, I mean, we already have it on the
Like
SNES.
yeah, and like you want four people, you know? You can easily find four of us to play with probably, you know?
Exactly.
Easy peasy. So,
Not only
I
that,
get it. That's a good choice.
but the way they do the multiplayer is like you're a virtual link cable. So it's like you have the whole screen to yourself. It's great. Um, and yeah, so there that is it. Let me see. Do you have another one? Well, I know you have another
Oh,
one.
I have tons of phones. Let's see.
750.
Yeah. Cuz I mean, you're talking handheld games to me, so no. I did my best and tried to exclude a lot of stuff I didn't think was possible. But even then, I still have a good amount. As like, we were making fun of this. We well, technically we were recording, but it didn't pick
Oh,
up.
yeah. Yeah.
But I'm gonna butcher this. What is it? Bokai Die. The sun is in your hands. We were
Boktai?
making fun of
Is
it.
that it? Boktai?
Boktai.
Yeah.
I mean that's
Okay.
probably the better
Yeah. I
guess.
was like thinking, what were we talking about? And that's right, Boktai and Boktai 2.
Boktai. Yeah, the sun is in your hands. I played the first one. I didn't play the second one. I don't really understand how they would do this concept because it plays with you using sunlight or like darkness as a gameplay mechanic. Because like you're more powerful like when the sun is out, basically. But like playing
Summertime.
this like on the actual like GBA back in the day, that was difficult because that didn't have like the built-in backlit screen, you know. So playing this in the sun where you're actually more powerful, you're like having this glare on the screen. It's like I can't really see, but this is fun because this is the concept. And I remember in Nintendo Power they had a contest for it. It's like, hey, you can get the game with like this coffin case to put your GBA in and like a trip to Hawaii. And I remember filling out the postcard and I was like, I'm gonna
Uh,
get it. This is
uh,
happening for me. And I think my grandma didn't even mail it.
thanks, Grandma, did you hear if I won? Oh, I forgot to send it in. My bad. That's just how I imagine all grandmothers sound.
And the main reason I wanted it was because of the coffin case. I was like, man, this is so cool. And you get the game too. I was like, wow. I was like, yeah, you get to go to Hawaii. I'm like, okay, okay. I mean, it makes sense. It's sunny, you know. Can you imagine if you won that and you go to Hawaii and it's just like rains the entire week you're there? And it's like,
oh, could you
can't,
imagine that? Yeah.
I can't use my prize, man. Thanks, Nintendo. It's like, what's going on here? But this is like a very quirky, unique kind of game. I think having it on like the NSO would actually bring it to people's like attention more. It's just again, I don't know how they would do this mechanic because you do need like sunlight to actually work. I'm sure they can figure out something, but it'd probably be honestly too much work. But again, this is the episode where I'm reaching for the sky with hopes and dreams. Usually I'm more grounded. But
Okay.
I'm going with this. I
Hopes and
still want it.
dreams. All right.
Hopes and
We can only hope. I mean, I went ahead, said one launch title. You told us a licensed game you'd like. I will go ahead and go with a licensed game I would enjoy, which would be Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I know they're not going to do it, but I went back and I played it. I played this. I played Britney Spears Dance Mix. Uh,
I remember that. I do remember that.
and you know what? Anytime I can play a rhythm game, I'm gonna play a rhythm game. And Britney Spears Dance Mix, I remember it was just basically DDR with something that looked sort of like Britney Spears dancing to music that sort of sounded like hers. It was it was really a banger. Um, But yeah, um, Britney Spears that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about Tony
No,
Hawk's Pro Skater. Um,
I don't know. It sounds like Britney Spears dance off is the King
Brittany
Choice.
got me distracted. Yeah, she got me distracted indeed. So in terms of like the best rated Game Boy games, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 is number 2 on whatever it is, Metacritic, where it's like at a 95 because my goodness, was that game spectacular. I remember liking it back in the day, and then I went ahead and played it again on this, I want to say the Steam Deck, but instead I'll say on my Game Boy Advance. And
Ooh,
and so I played it again and I was like, "Oh man, I forgot how much I enjoyed playing this game." But even like playing it on the small like the Game Boy, like the GBA SP screen is just like, "Oh, man, I just miss the Game Boy and the games. I don't miss all the games that tried to be 3D, like Mortal Kombat and Tekken. I mean, even the Tekken game wasn't that bad, but um, some of the games, they were just rushing to get them out, and then they just didn't work quite as well. But yeah, I
you know, I
can't.
got you.
You can't win them all. Um, Mel, is there a game?
Yeah,
Is there any games
that was always.
from the launch that you um,
Oh, I
would
gotta
love?
pull that up. Gotta pull
I
that up.
know for a fact there's a game for a launch. I'm basically just teeing you up for one of the best games. It was a great game on the
Um,
Dreamcast, and then it came to launch on.
oh, okay. So this was a launch title. I wasn't sure. I remember it being early on. I just remember I couldn't remember if it was actually launch day. But Choo Choo Rocket, yeah.
Bow, 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 bow,
I
bow,
mean,
bow. Yeah,
a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm actually really into like arcadey types of games. So this just really, is like
cements that.
perfection
Yeah,
to me
yeah.
because I played this on the Dreamcast a ton of times, and I've been asking for that Apple exclusive, Apple Arcade exclusive
Oh yeah, the
for
Choo
the
Choo
Switch forever.
Rocket one. Yeah.
Because I actually got the arcade mostly mainly to play that. I mean, I played some other great titles on there as well, but it was honestly just mostly play Choo Choo Rocket. It's just like this little puzzle type like game, you're trying to get all the little stuff all together, and it's just very addictive to me. And it's one of those things that's like, oh, I just want to do one more level, one more try. And I did try other, you know, uh, inspired stuff by it, but like
Oh yeah.
nothing really has hit it for me. Sometimes some of these inspiration inspired by games, they actually do work for me. But oftentimes I guess I'm a little pickier and it's just like, no, I just kind of want like the actual thing, you know. Like we just had the announcement of Wargroove 2, that's happening,
Wargroove
sometime
2.
this year.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I like the first one, but like now since we have like Advance Wars, hey, this is also coming this year. I'm like, oh, I have Advance Wars, so I'm actually more excited for Advance Wars because hey, it's there. This is actually what I wanted. It's not that I don't want, just want World War Two. It's just that's gonna be like a down the line thing. I'm not really excited for it because I got the actual thing coming out this year as well. So you know, but
That's
I would
true.
love
Yeah.
Choo Choo Rocket. Perfect little pick up and play thing. You do a couple of little levels.
Yeah.
Knock them out before you go to sleep or something. While you cooking.
You're out here
Uh,
cooking. Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
Do it while you
So
watch a show or something.
yeah, it's not like a heavy story. You need like a lot of super focus with that kind of thing. But I do like it. Nothing has really matched that for me for inspiration stuff based off it. So yeah, I would just like another version of it. I don't really care which version. Just put one on there that I actually like. I'm good to go. So that's, of course, is one of mine. I can't believe I didn't remember it was a launch title, but I knew it was early on in its life because I saw it and I'm like, man, I really want this, but like I technically already have a Choo Choo Rocket, so I got to really balance my choices here when I'm buying stuff. Like nowadays,
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll be like, I'm getting this one, I'm getting this version, but like
Right.
back in
Yeah.
the day, I could. So,
Um, so I was like, you know what? This is it. This is there's a couple of games that came out that I enjoyed playing and that I want to come out because we were going to have a longer show where we talked about what we've been playing and things, but it turns out I have to go soon. So what I was thinking is we can just list off some games that we want to see come,
mm,
and then just like a couple of them that we would feel like if we didn't mention it, we would feel bad. Um, and I'm trying to think of some of the ones that I wanted. Like, you know how they on the NES, NSO on the NES, or NES on the
yeah.
NSO, they have like a bunch of random, like just such random games. Like, I would love some random Game Boy Advance games to just randomly show up, like Car Battler Joe, or there was another game that I went ahead and played through the
Uh,
other night on Game Boy Advance, and it was Wade Hickson's Counterpunch, which is kind of like a Punch Out knockoff with like really good animation on the Game Boy
oh, okay.
Advance. The animation and the look of the game almost reminds me of like Dragon's Lair and
Ooh,
stuff like that.
okay.
I love the Breath of Fire 1 and 2 on the Game Boy. But then there was one that I had open, but I guess the Gunstar Heroes, those would be nice.
Okay.
What
Taking
am
note
I
here.
taking all your games?
Not
Um,
all of them, but you did take Gunstars. I did like
oh
those games.
heavens. So then there's two other games that I saw that I was like, you know what, I gotta at least mention these two because one was a game based on what we talked about, which was pinball, and it was Pinball
Hmm.
of the Dead. They had Pinball of the
You know,
Dead,
they did. They did have that.
and
That's a
I
good one.
completely forgot about it until I was looking this up. And I just remember enjoying that, and I was like, oh, that's right. They should have more just games, pinball games based on games that I like. That's what I think they should do. Just go, just wander around me. And then in terms of the other game that I wanted to mention before
Okay.
I am done is I don't think this is one that you have per se, but it is Rebel Star Tactical Command, and it is a game that I played a lot. It is basically XCOM on the Game Boy Advance,
Okay. This might
and
have to go on my list now.
yeah, give it a look. See, give it the old one too. Rebel Star, all one
Yeah,
word, Tactical Command.
I'll pull it up after.
Yeah, give it a look. See, it is definitely plays like XCOM. I believe it. One of the designers or creators of the original XCOM worked on this game. I believe, if I remember correctly. And it also has hot seat multiplayer and then link cable multiplayer. So you can go back and forth, or you can just fight against each other.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how this skipped me back in the day. That sounds right up my alley. I'm gonna have to pull it up after.
Oh yeah, give it a look. See, yeah, because even on the cover, it basically just has some aliens with guns, like showing like this is you like XCOM, don't you? Basically, even back on the Game Boy Advance. But how about you? How about some games that you want to make sure
Okay.
that you would want,
So, okay, let's see. We're sticking Game Boy Advance, I'm guessing. We'll save
or
the other ones for later.
you can say Game Boy as well if you'd like.
Okay. So, those the Sonic Advance series, actually
Yes.
pretty decent. So I would like to see those. We had the Kelowna remake like what, a year or
Oh
two
yeah.
ago, like the
Mm-hmm.
first game. There's actually two like Game Boy Advance games, also actually pretty decent. I think those would be good little fill-ins for the NSO. Mr. Driller too, because I like Mr. Driller, so more of
I'm
it. Um,
a big Driller fan.
Big Driller fan. Alien Homicide apparently had a Game Boy Advance version.
The
So I
Alien
mean, I like the
Hominid,
GameCube,
yeah.
but Hominate, my bad, Hominate. But yeah, so I would like. I like that. I'll take that version. I don't care. They already showed off Fire Emblem Lightning Blade, so don't really have to hope for that. That's coming eventually, type of thing.
Right.
There's some Bomberman games, classic Bomberman. So I like
Yeah,
that.
those would be fun with the multiplayer. And
Yeah.
Alien Hominid, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, that is a lot of fun on the Game Boy. I remember it being a lot of fun. I haven't played it recently. I also haven't played Alien Hominid recently either. But I do love the games that the Behemoth makes. So,
I
yeah.
mean, they did say they were supposed to redo that, huh?
Yeah,
That
they
was a
announced
while
a
ago.
remake of it. Yeah.
That was a while ago. I think the only like Nintendo game I have on here that's like Game Boy Advance anyway is actually DK King of Swing. I know that's a
Oh.
choice, but I actually haven't played this. And I remember when this came out, it was like near the end of like Game Boy Advance's life. And you use like the L and R buttons as the primary buttons because
Yeah.
he's just like climbing stuff. And I do think this came out like on the Wii U Virtual Console, so I think it's a pretty good contender. And now since we have like all this Donkey Kong stuff happening since the Mario movie, we had like the Lego Donkey Kong coming out. We had like the Donkey Kong ride at the Universal theme park. We have like the new Fire Donkey Kong apparently in the movie. I don't know if that's like a sign to come for like something new in the game or if it's just like something new to the movie. But I mean, if they want to go all DK, they can do all DK with Donkey Kong King of Swing on GBA NOS.
I'd be down for, yeah, some more Donkey Kong.
So you
Um,
know,
because Donkey
of
Kong King of
course,
Swing. Go ahead.
you know. It, it's a quirky, unique title. I don't think it did really well in any kind of aspect, but I would like to try it. So
Yeah.
that's one of my I like to try things.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that when it comes to the system. Who knows when that'll be? 2026. Probably when the Switch 2 is already out, they'll be like, "Hey, what about this? Hey, oh, hey."
Yeah, yeah, I can see it.
It's
Just
one
repeating.
one game we didn't get from SNES that I wanted on the 3DS was Super Mario RPG. So I'm still waiting for Super Mario RPG to come to NSO for SNES. But it
I mean,
seems
that
like
would be nice.
they don't really care about NES or SNES these days, especially with Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. Um, with those not being locked behind the other tier.
Yeah, kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll see. It's kind of a bummer that they're treating the Game Boy Advance games the same way they are the N64, where we get like one a month every month.
Maybe.
Yeah, and if we're gonna get a Game Boy Advance game, we won't get a N64 game. It's like it just it's kind of a bummer.
It Yeah, it's trading off, and then you have to think about like the Sega Genesis stuff as well too, because that just happens like randomly. That's like no pattern
Yeah,
at all. 'Cause, I mean, there's still honestly for most of these systems, maybe not the NES too much in my opinion, because like we pretty much have like most of the NES games that we were probably going to get. But, like these other systems, we're still able to tap out some like good choices here, and we're just going at a super snail pace, which I get why they would. It's just a little frustrating if you're like a big virtual console person, you know.
right. And it is kind of wild that it's like just random, like what comes out, like especially like so now they have these games that they have announced that aren't out yet. So we'll be getting those games. But sometimes they'll announce these games and they'll be like, listen, these are coming. And we'll get them coming to, to the point where it's like um, the NES and SNES and Genesis, they went ahead and released everything announced. And so then the wild thing was you would just get a random game. You have no idea. Like it could be, our base belong to us, or it could be, just some random other NES or SNES game. They got like Harvest Moon came out, I believe, on the SNES in Japan, and then never came out here, but in Japan it came out.
Yeah. I would like to see some more like stuff we never got before. Like obvious choice here for the GBA would be Mother 3. You know, stuff
Yeah,
like that. I would love to see that on the NOS. I think that would really elevate the system because it's like, hey, this is actually giving an opportunity to people to actually play these types of games. Of course, those other ways you can play them, but we're talking about in the mindset of,
Nintendo. Yeah,
official ways, types of things.
right. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting more Game Boy Advance games and Game Boy games. I'm looking forward to getting those games. So hopefully we'll get some in March. Um, well, I guess we
Sounds like,
kind of got. Did we get?
ooh, it actually did that happen last week? Because if it happened last week, then we kind of got March.
Yeah, I
So
think we did. Yeah, came out
yeah. Oh, maybe April. Maybe April would get like what F Zero or like
1080
Golden
snowboarding.
Sun. Oh yeah, we could get 1080
Nothing quite
snowboarding.
like the summertime, baby. Releasing 1080
Spring.
or Excite Bike. Yeah,
Spring gets
spring.
1080.
Well, we're getting there. It's March. Next thing you know, it'll be June.
You're talking like those ultra rich people. It's like, oh, I'm taking my summer vacation at the cottage. It's like people. It's like, yeah, it's summertime anytime I go.
Well,
Type
yeah,
of thing.
it's just what. It's the family ritual. Um,
Yeah,
you sacrifice a Sega Genesis player. Uh, at the cabin. Um, uh,
No, I would play that. Play
yeah,
that as a game.
yeah, there's a game for you. But yeah, so we would have a longer episode. I mean, I say longer; it's already been over an hour.
Yeah,
But
but this is awesome.
it would have been
Maybe
longer.
maybe maybe we'll have like a two for next week or something. We
Yeah,
can just hash out because we did have some games we wanted to talk about that we played, but since we got messed up with the recording, and time limit
but
kind of
now
thing.
maybe we'll get to both have Metro, no, Bayonetta Origins is going to be out next week, so we'll both be playing that, and we'll
Yeah.
go from
So
there.
we still have some good stuff.
Yeah,
We apologize for the little break. But some things happen. Some things happen. But we'll get back on to semi schedule, hopefully soon enough.
yeah,
And
and we'll talk
you
to
know,
y'all next week-ish. I say
maybe.
ish in case we don't come back.
Exactly.
Toodaloo.
Yeah.